came through with how you have decided to join the Zoom call. Like it works, and the angle you have, because a lot of people wouldn't. I mean, it doesn't necessarily me would think to do it that way or to be on a mobile device. I would almost see it maybe as a detriment, but it really serves you. It really works, and so I really love it, especially like when you were like saying yay and you move the phone up and down with you like you were jumping, like stuff like that that might. But I think it's because it's so natural to you to move around that makes sense for you. Does that make, whereas like a lot of people we have that have microphones in their hands, or that grounds them and it gives them. So I love that um you're taking this device and the way you're using it and the way the camera angle, it serves you. It actually enhances your online stand up. So I commend you for that. I really enjoy that, and that was something that came across and stood out to me from all the different types of comedians that I've seen like that. I really enjoyed that because it actually, like I said, it works to enhance your comedy and your point of view versus I'm thinking like what's going on with your camera. You know what I mean? Like that can happen. Um I did really love how you started it out. I'm 34 years old young because I was like, oh, because also depends on like your audience age. They may not think that's young or they may think it's young.
Thanks.
So I like that you're like, no, I'm going to tell you what I am. So I appreciate that. And then you bring in the whole grandpas and the Bengay, and that you were very specific, like with your imagery. It's very specific and it's useful. Like you said, Walgreens, the first time going to the like, yes, we all know that Walgreens. Like we've all been down that aisle, unfortunately, possibly. Um, and then the back and how you go into like you have a really good way of a segue, even though it's not necessarily connected to the prior thought. It's the way that you have that conversational um
Mhm. It's
style.
like a confidence almost.
Yeah.
Just like you can
Like
like sell me anything.
I feel
uh,
like you're doing
Oh,
like
shit.
I feel like you're
I think
calling me. Does that make sense? Like you're like, hey, I'm gonna FaceTime with you and tell you some crazy stuff that happened to me, versus it just being
Oh,
like a
that's how I got started. I used to so my when I was like fucking off in college, I used to call my boy Eric, who got me into comedy. I used to call him at like 3 in the morning with just random shit that just happened to me, like
Mm,
it was early in the day. And so, and even he called me back then. He was like, he said I'm a conversationalist, so that's why he thought I'll be good at comedy before I
nice.
even did a mic.
Nice. Well, that all comes through, and it seems like right away, like you didn't need to. Some people go through different phases of figuring out like what their point of view is or what works. Like it seems like that confidence comes through because you kind of always knew and just went from there. Um, I think that like the whole Dallas stuff, like I'm curious because right now you guys are really your area of the country is very topical because of what's just happened and what's going on with you. So I think you can even use that more because it's sort of like, and Desiree knows this, and so Desiree's from Canada, John is in Ireland, like having things that are specific to where you're at, like that we're curious. Because one thing about doing the Zoom comedy is that you really can expand your audience and sort of use it as like a megaphone for whatever type of feeling you have or being representative of like your area and using that comedy because it's not everyone. You're not doing it with all other Texas comedians, you know what I mean? So you get to really widen that gap, like that area of like who gets to be exposed to your humor, and you're not going to be a bunch of comedians coming from the same place, if that makes sense. You get to utilize that. So I love that you did that, but I think you even have a treasure trove of more things that you can even say about that, of like what just happened. Because we're all, I mean, I'm pretty curious about that, if you're, because it seems like you make up a lot of stuff as a conversationalist in the moment, so you can use that stuff. um okay, I'm gonna age myself. I'm slightly embarrassed. Dabs, I think I know what it is, but we didn't do it when I was a kid because I'm
Ooh.
about 10 years older than you. So
Yeah, it's like it's like super concentrated.
it's like
Supposed to be marijuana, but it looked like some dark brown blackish like venom. And then you gotta like light it with a weird way, and you gotta dude. It's like that shit on. It ain't no weed you break down. That shit is like a thick like
yeah,
it's
that
almost kind of like a
a hashish.
Vaseline.
It's like hash.
No, it's like
no, it's almost
extremely
like
Oh,
strong weed, just like extremely strong wax. That's
I'm
weed.
so
yeah,
glad
it's
that
a
we're getting
wax.
educated. This is This is me and my wow. So thank
Imagine like a melted Jolly Rancher, I feel.
oh my god.
Yeah. Oh my God, that shit had me hella. I
You'll get
So
can't even.
higher than you've ever been in your
just
fucking
being
life.
aware that if you make a little like even if it's a small explanation up for you just to be like, like that was just me, but I had an idea, but it was like, oh, I think so. But being high is being high and trying to do, and I loved the term that the like cat dildo, and then I love that you like said it briefly, and then
Yeah.
you went back and you were like, if someone's calling you a cat dildo, like you got to
Fucking
question
up.
your behavior.
Look at your
Yeah.
life.
Like you're making a
Yeah.
questionable life choice. So I just really enjoyed that. I would say that yeah, the McDonald's like the all this is really good, and then the whole like cocoa butter and all this stuff. Like I love that it's very personable and it's personal that it happened to you, and that you've really embraced like I knew who you were and I was already in it like from one moment that like it was like, oh, this guy just called me and he's telling me all this stuff and it's hysterical. So but with like and I think I said something with Tom with the timing sense, like the last few jokes weren't as like they seemed like hitched together, like because you do have a great way of just saying like finishing that joke and moving on to a next topic without having to segue it like bridge it all the time. It still works because it's a conversation. And but yeah, I like the McDonald's thing. Like if you're eating McDonald's, I think you can go on that for. But I those are my major notes. So thank you. That was really fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks again.
Thank you
Give it
guys.
up for Carey Cool Trip. Woo, 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 woo.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is a great mic because you get applause after you do your set and after we give feedback. So you twice, twice the applause.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Next up, we are going to give it to our fantastic Canadian regular.
Woo!
Please give it up for Desiree Walsh. Woo, 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 woo.
Oh, hello. Um, wait, where? Okay, good. The clock is weird, but I can see it.
I tried to make it cool.
Okay, and it's very cool. So I am Canadian. There's still no joke there. It's more of a humble brag at this point, but I really am rooting for you, America. Yeah. Um, I'm really enjoying doing mics with Americans because I'm learning so much about your culture, specifically the food. I'm learning about something called the Uncrustable. We don't have these abominations in Canada. So I'm told it's like the white trash cousin of the Pop Tart or the redheaded stepchild of the Pizza Pocket. For those of you who don't know, it's a frozen peanut butter sandwich. And America, wouldn't it be easier just to make a peanut butter sandwich? Like with an Uncrustable, you have to thaw it and cook it and then eat it. It just seems like a lot of work. I recently did this joke, and another comedian was like, "No, no, no, you don't have to thaw it or cook it. You can just eat it frozen." And now I have more questions than I have answers, America. Because what do you mean? Like, why are we paying money for the worst day of grade 2 when the ice pack fell on top of the sandwich? Why are we paying money for that? And then another comedian was like, "No, no, no. If you take anything away from my set, please take away that American comedians are very helpful." Um, another comedian was like, "No, no, like you don't have to eat it frozen. You just take it out of the freezer and you let it thaw naturally." And now I have the question, is it a friend or is it food? Because, like, what do you mean? You take it out of the freezer, just cuddle it, hold it close till you just sing it tiny dancer till its desired temperature you need? These are the questions I had. And they got answered because finally a Virginia based comedian sent me some Uncrustables. And I have the same question, America. Wouldn't it be easier to make a peanut butter sandwich? Because with an Uncrustable, you have to thaw it. You don't have to cook it. Surprising fact. But you do have to, like, mess with that little bag that's created by your space program. It's really hard to open. Um, and I tried eating it frozen because it was recommended. That's a good way to get a chipped tooth. If you don't like your symmetrical smile, eat an Uncrustable frozen. And you really do have to take it out of the freezer and kind of just cuddle it. till desired temperature you need. I did try singing it Tiny Dancer. It didn't really make a difference. What I'm saying is I think Smuckers needs to be stopped between that and the Goober grape. There's a lot of talk about what's wrong with America or what happened to America. And quite frankly, as a person who only discovered New Jersey was a state about 8 weeks ago, I don't believe I'm entitled to an opinion, but I think it started with the invention of the Uncrustable. Yeah. That is true, a true fact. I recently discovered New Jersey was a state. For most of my life, I thought it was a suburb of New York. Turns out I was getting it mixed up with Staten Island. Yeah. I don't know very much about Staten Island, so I decided to Google it. And a tourism website with 13 interesting facts about Staten Island came up. The best one, the most flattering, was that they have the largest garbage dump in the US. That wasn't even 13, that was like 5. Um, isn't the garbage something we're supposed to be hiding from the tourists? Like, I'm from Toronto, and on our tourism websites, we talk about the lake and the Sky Dome and the CN Tower. We leave out the negative stuff, like we have a bit of a homeless person problem, and there's no affordable housing. Those two are related. It's not very wheelchair accessible, and we're kind of mean for a Canadian city. Like, other Canadian cities do not like us, but you should come see us. Yeah, I don't think I have time for the rest of the joke, so I'm gonna end it there.
Woo, 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 woo! Give
Hey.
it up for Desiree, everybody, and Cool Timer. Woo, woo, woo! Just kidding. Oh God, I'm dying.
Oh no, should I
This
go
is
first?
why I
Don't
can't
die. Show must go on. No.
This is why I can't make jokes. Okay, so, um, th- I, so I really like that you're coming, and I just want to preface this with if I seem like I'm not laughing as much as I normally do, it is because, I am actually able to listen closer now to the material that you have done here a couple of times now. So it's a good thing,
Yes.
but if that's, don't be thrown off by me not laughing, if that's a concern.
Okay.
And also on that, like getting to take a, like, hopefully a closer look at your set and like trying to see where we can expand on. I really loved like taking anything away from this story. It's that Americans are really helpful. I really liked that. I don't know if this was in it last time and I just missed it, but the space program bag. I really liked that one. The whole like vacuum seal and it being impossible to open. Um, I wonder because you kind of tie up the Uncrustables bit with like the Smuckers need to be stopped, and
Yeah.
that kind of pulls me into the world of like conspiracy theory.
Yes.
So it may be fun to think about like what is next in the grand scheme of like the like Uncrustables conspiracy theory. Like first they come for our lunches, next they come for fill in the blank. Um,
Like a roast beef dinner in a bread pocket.
oh my god, which they have. I didn't know that. You have now done more Uncrustable research than I have. I didn't know that they had like barbecue chicken
Yeah, they
Uncrustables.
do.
There's a taco one I saw yesterday.
Yeah, someone sent me, well, another comic that isn't you sent me, and Kelly, the barbecue chicken one. It's basically food poisoning in a pouch. But there's so many chemicals that I don't like it. It didn't do anything, and there's very little chicken, so it was mostly bread.
Yeah, and I mean like that's even another direction to go with the Uncrustable section of your set too. It's like every color of food poisoning rainbow
Yeah.
is in the Uncrustables. But like those are a couple things that you can kind of think about.
Okay.
And this hasn't been an issue before, and it wasn't like a huge issue this time, but it was a little bit distracting because I don't know if your camera's normally tilted down a little bit more,
Maybe.
but it was like cutting off your mouth a little bit. So just
Okay.
be aware of that. Like
I wrote
that's
that.
already
I
fixed
see
it.
her mouth, Desiree. I want to see the mouth that had to eat those Uncrustables.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah, it is. 'Cause I had my lid closed and then I opened it and I just pushed it back and I normally like sit it forward
Okay.
and then
All good. I mean, like whatever you did
okay.
just now, it's already fixed
Okay.
here.
That's fixed.
And then I think just be like aware of, um, like the background only because it distracted me for a second because I was like, what is known unknowns? And you've kind of, and again, this is something that I might not know if I was seeing your set for the first time. But now I kind of have a precedent and an expectation set that the background will be
That it's
related to the
this.
set.
Okay.
So wait, it's what?
I will fix that for you.
Oh, okay. I mean, thank
Ooh.
you, thank you. Back to business as usual.
Okay.
And then the last idea I had for like something maybe to explore is okay, these are the top things on the tourist website about New Jersey, and they're pretty scary. What are the worst things about New Jersey? Like,
Or Staten Island. It
or
was
Staten
Staten
Island.
Island.
Yeah.
They weren't all that exciting. It was stuff like they have a garden.
Just
Like it was just very like it wasn't very touristy. Like, and I just thought it was funny that we have the largest garbage dump in the U.S. on like a like a come to Staten Island reasons list.
sounds on point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just thought it might be like worth investigating. Like if the best thing is the dumpster, what's the worst thing? But
Okay.
just an idea. Take it away, Lisa.
So I have to say, I know some of the comedians, you guys are new faces, and we have some familiar faces, and I love it. But Desiree's literally every week she's been on, and I love that we've gotten to see this material develop, which was great. I this was I feel like this was my one of my favorite like part times that you've done this because you I saw all these different notes and it's been like in different levels.
Yeah.
Really all worked. Like the pace, because I've been talking about that the last few times that your pace of letting us like absorb your joke and like you're conversational but in a different way. You're kind of like asking questions and making us think and it worked. Like I all those notes, like you nailed them. You nailed them this time, or how you said naturally, or how you most flattering. Like you really got the wording down. And I know with like the uncrustable stuff, how we're like now that you've had them because you had all this like stuff before, and now you've had them. I love how you tied it up because you joke that like, and Virginia-based comedian like give you this it was all it took was that one line and then you still like and I still have the same questions and it was like brilliant because it was like it didn't change a thing because now that you had it. So I loved that. I thought you tied it up really nicely with all the weeks and all the notes we've been giving. Like and that they all feel like they cemented and were natural. Does that make sense? Like you really like
Yeah.
I really thought your pace, like I just kept writing, love your pace. I did write, I want to see your mouth, your full mouth, because
Okay.
like it's just being aware of that, just doing a quick check of that before you start or even making it part of like adjusting like you can incorporate that like because the great thing about Zoom is that everyone is really we're all really everyone's always rooting for you and really friendly being this comedian Zoom world that you can be like oh I gotta adjust so you can see my actual face so it's like the whole thing so because we want to see your beautiful face I want to see that it just because sometimes it does get even cut here and that's not as distracting as like when we just missed half of your mouth that was
Okay.
more of the issue that way but I loved the pace I loved the naturally you hit that the one thing I would say if you wanted to explore more uncrustables you really did the genre like of I literally was in Target yesterday and it was like all the uncrustables and I thought of you and I was like there's taco uncrustables. There's like a ham and cheese uncrustable. There's a peanut. And I was just like, oh my God. Like I was horrified by the choices. But like, maybe they're just trying to be inclusive. I don't know. Uncrustables. They're trying to include everyone. So and that's a topic, but honestly, I think you've tied it up really well. You've brought it all like it's a tight set. Um uh I apologize. My mom kept trying to text me during your set, so I had to be
Oh,
like, "Stop texting me, mom."
Shut it down,
It's the
mom.
important thing. But I just love most how you said most flattering and how did the tiny dancer now that you have the perfect like there were just the word selection and we talk about like funnier words or like
yeah.
finding the right amount and how to hit it like all of that worked. So this is me go, yay! I was very, and I wasn't like guffawing like I normally do because I knew it, but I also was so happy. I was like, look, it just, I felt it was hitting and it found its
Yeah.
natural pace for you. I did you felt like that?
Yeah. After you guys kind of said, because last time I kind of tried to roll the fact that I had Uncrustables in,
Mhm.
um, then this time I did the whole first bit, and then I added the new, like, second bit, um, and then I just did the Jersey stuff usually comes first, but that's good to know that the Jersey stuff can kind of go at the end
I think.
if it needs to. I think I did it that way. I had a show on Saturday, and I think I did it that way. But yeah, I've been practicing a little bit and just telling people at other open mics, if you've heard this, like, now is a good time to go to the bathroom because
Mhm.
I'm gonna be about
I
2 minutes.
and I love that you get to do that, especially because in the Zoom world, that's something you get to do. So I really enjoyed that. I felt like you found like a sweet spot for a lot of it. And
Yeah.
I still laughed at this. I know the Staten Island stuff, but I've also been to Staten Island, and I know that that is the most flattering fact about it. So sorry, Rich. I don't know if you live in Staten Island, and I apologize if you do. So, but no, I just was really, I really enjoyed that because I got to see like all the work you've been doing to find that sweet spot. I feel like you sort of hit it and stuff. So thank you.
Two funny
No
feedback
problem.
season 1 finale
That's
of the
good.
Uncrustable set. Now we're gonna work on turning it into a full 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a fringe play
Just
on
Oh, that's fun. Oh
you
Uncrustables.
my
gotta
god.
let it thaw. You're like, we'll revisit this. Like at the beginning of your set, you pull it out cold, and then
Oh,
you
Yeah.
read it at the end of your set.
ooh, meta. The set is the Uncrustable. Anyway,
Food.
cool, awesome. Give it up for Desiree, everybody. Woo 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 woo. And next up, it's his first time on the mic. Really excited to see what this guy's got. Give it up for Rich. Woo 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 woo.
Yay!
Hi there. I'm gonna try to fill out time. I don't have much, and also I didn't change my underwear for this, so I kind of feel underdressed. I do apologize. Um, I kept the same ones on. That's working from home for you. I'm just kidding. I was at his bar the other day with a friend. There's like an outside thing, um, and he was just getting really plastered because he was going through a breakup. But that's not important. His feelings aren't important. He got his ass kicked by the security guard. He was just getting out of hand, and like he got a really bad day. I mean, he got dumped, and he got his ass kicked by a security guard because he was getting rowdy. But he's just that kind of guy. He's just that kind of guy where he just kind of like he lets out a lot of his aggression with violence. I really don't know why I hang out with him. I don't really like him, but he's I don't know. I just kind of go along with people sometimes, just to not be just hanging out alone. And anyway,
Oh.
I just he got his ass kicked, and I just said like, hey, let's go back to the place, smoke some weed, man. Like you look like shit. And we did. We got back and started smoking weed, and I started thinking about that phrase because he kept saying, he's like, man, I got my ass kicked, man, I got my ass kicked. And I was just like, God, why do we say that? Why do we say getting your ass kicked? What is that? Where does that come from? Um, because when you get your ass kicked, it works so well because you know right away what it means when someone says that, but it also doesn't make any sense because when you get your ass kicked, you don't really get your ass kicked. That doesn't happen when you're engaged at fisticuffs. You're in an altercation with someone. There are no, there's no foot to the rear end. That's never happening. And if you think about it, if you really dissect it, if you smoke too much weed, like I did, what'll happen is you'll put yourself in that situation or whatever, even if you're a fighter or not, definitely not. But I felt like if I did have that situation and I saw like a foot hit my ass, that would almost like stop the fight. I think that would throw you off to the point where you're like, wait, what did someone just did you kick me in the ass? Did you tell someone to kick me in the ass? And then I got a little bit further with it, And I was like, but wait, what if you did? What if this guy that was in conversation with my friend who got his ass kicked? Like, what if you did kick his ass? You could say that. You could go out and tell, because you have a black eye probably developing. You're going to wake up with one tomorrow. Your pride's hurt and all that. But if you kicked him in the ass, if you got a foot there, you could tell people that. You could tell people when you go to work and they see your black eye. You could honestly, with like conviction, say like, yeah, I kicked the guy's ass. And you could just go around telling everyone that you got in a fight and you kicked the dude's ass. But then like it probably would just fall apart immediately, because you would immediately, they'd probably ask like, yeah, you kicked the guy's ass, but then they would say like, oh really, you won the fight? And you're like, no, he beat the shit out of me, but I kicked his ass. I don't know. There are no segues. I don't know how to do them. I've watched a lot of TV. I watch a lot of ads. Very often I see commercials, and I saw this ad. I started laughing a lot at particular ads, and like I like when they're funny. I feel like I always try to like, write ads and stuff, but I've been noticing these Carvana ones lately. They started off Carvana. You guys ever heard of Carvana?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you guys have all heard of it. Their ad campaign is insane. They're everywhere, and they started out just like pretty straightforward. Like, we're a new tech company. We do this thing where you can just order a phone on an app. We have car vending machines. You can pick up your car, or we can pick up your old car, and just like just in a snap, you can get your car removed and get the new one that you order on the app. Whatever. It's a really cool business idea. But then they started breaking into the comedy kind of like ad campaign, like vibes on their ad campaign, and then it just started shitting all over car salesmen. And that's where it got a little weird for me, because there are a lot of car salesmen still. They're out there. As a matter of fact, that's actually how most people buy their cars, is from car salespeople. And I just feel like, you see these Carvana ads, and they're going off all of the stereotypes of what car salesmen are like how they swarm you on the car lot and they don't leave you alone, and how like they're, at the end of the deal they get you excited about a car, but then there's all these fees that they tack on at the end, and you can't avoid them because you already agreed to the car, and they pressure you. And then they wear these little like big goofy suits all the time, and they kind of have like this weird cartoonish vibe. Like, they're going off all these stereotypes, and basically I feel like, what was that meeting like? They had that meeting, and they just kind of speculating that they just like picture them coming together in this large meeting room, and it's like, okay, what's an occupation? Here's the pitch. What's an occupation that everyone fucking hates, that we can all as a country just get together, join hands, and collectively make fun of? Car salesman. And then they just kind of went from there. They break out the writing board, they start hiring a staff. And I just thought that wouldn't work with like other kinds of companies, because all of our jobs are gonna be replaced. A lot of jobs in customer service are eventually going to be replaced, and that's what Carvana is doing. A lot of like companies are still like following that model now. Follow me on this. This isn't a TED Talk, I swear.
Sorry, you are actually over your time.
Oh shit.
So we will just wrap it up there. It's okay. It happens. Woo, 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 woo. Give it up for Rich, everybody. Woo!
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, you had a lot of stuff in there, so I'm just gonna jump into it, because that's the phrase I use to start giving all the feedback. I think opener, it's fine. I liked like a cute little opener, and I think that it didn't have to relate to the rest of your set, and kind of starting everybody off the bat, acknowledging the awkwardness of Zoom pretty much with the changing underwear joke, I think is a stronger choice, and very topical since lots of people are working from home right now. And I thought it was really funny just the way that you describe your relationship with your friend right off the bat. And you don't describe the relationship directly, but just by reiterating the conversation that you have with him, kind of gave me the sense that Um, basically, like, you guys are friends, but also, like, don't give a shit about him, which I thought was really funny. Um, like, and then there was also complacency that I thought was really funny with his attitude, like he's just the kind of guy who's really violent when he's mad, or like you could just do another comparison that like kind of exaggerates the hell out of that, like he's just like when he loses a board game, he just has to go on bank robbing crime spree or something. Like building off of it, like somewhere else, like there's other comparable things. And then as far as like the kicked ass discussion, one moment I thought you could kind of branch off is so it sounds to be like kind of confusion about the origin of the phrase kick somebody's ass. And then you went on to say, and then, that doesn't actually happen in like a good round of fisticuffs. So I think it would also be worth acknowledging there, like, where the hell did fisticuffs come from? Speaking of kicking your asses, and like, what other idioms and phrases do we have that like mean fighting, but like are so far away from what actually happens in a fight. Um, oh, I made a note for myself that you used the word dissect, and I want to start using that more because I use the word unpack too much. So now I'm gonna say dissect every third time. And I liked the idea of like I thought the direction you were going to go was like, oh, you can literally kick his ass, and then like, but what is the badge of honor around like literally kicking somebody's ass? And then you brought it around, and I thought the twist was really funny that it's like, no, this is all an effort to lie. Um, basically, make it sound like you won the fight when actuality you didn't. I think that that section, though, you may want to look back at and just see, are there areas we can tighten it? How can we um, kind of be economical with our words and kind of use the least number of words to get the necessary exposition across? And then uh, I really like it when comics are self-aware enough and have the wherewithal to at least if you're not going to have a good transition, acknowledge that you don't have a segue. Thought that was strong. I think you can expand on the Carvana idea of like vending machines, because then it did get into a little bit of territory where it was like just kind of talking about how bad Carvana was to the car salesman people. And I think it might have been a little bit because we ran out of time, but there was like a certain aspect of like I was kind of looking for where the comedic twist was because at that point I was just like I agree with you. I think that they should be nicer to car salesmen. Like you kind of convinced me, and I think that one area you might be able to do that is like the stereotype of the car salesman trying to pressure you into getting like all these add-ons and charging you a lot of money. And it's like we kind of paint them out to be like really cunning and deceitful because they do that, but that's their job. Where is the accountability on the side of the customer to not be a little wavering bitch, you know? Like, I don't know, just like try and take a different perspective to further your point of like not shitting on the car salesman. But that's all I have. Overall, yeah, Carvana and kicking ass. There we go.
First of all, I
Thank
want to
you.
say I think it's Carvana. I don't know. I guess it depends where you're from.
I
Whatever
don't
you
think they care as long as you buy it.
buy from a vending machine. But anyway, just giving you a hard time. But thank you. I'm so happy to have you here. I really did like your transition because it acknowledged, prior comedians and like to come in and it makes it very present. So I love that when there's a way, especially because, like we said, we're doing all these Zoom comedy now. They're, acknowledging someone else's set that you were there together because that's something that comedians would do in a live show, like, oh, the person who just introduced them or something like that. There's usually a connecting thing. So I enjoyed that. that you made it very present and acknowledged like someone else's joke prior and brought it into your world, in our world. I like that. I like how you have, and it's funny because you mentioned how your friend and you were like getting stoned. Because a couple of these feel like a conversation. I was that was the idea of like if you're stoned, these are the things you think about, kind of stuff. Um, but I like that you also throw in language that is unexpected, and that's what makes me that made me giggle more than some other, like that's what got me. Like his feelings aren't important, or like things that you say, like a fisticuffs. One time you even said swarm later on, like words that were like, and I know that Tom picked up on like dissect. So you'd be talking, then there's like this word you don't expect that perfectly describes what you're saying and catches us off guard because it's a very casual conversation that you're sort of having with us, which I appreciate. I did like that. But getting your ass kicked, and I do. It is true. Like all that examining, like that's not exactly what we don't do that. I will tell you, toddlers might fight like that. I'm just I've seen it because that's what we tell them. They're very literal. Um, so just to let you know, but I like that. I do think there's tightening, like with both of the sets, because you had two sort of big thoughts, which are great. But you can I think just examining, like just tightening it for, because also I know time ran out, seeing what's extraneous, like what points do you need to make to drive home your point. There was, and it, because it sort of had that very casual feel, which is great. I think there is a way just to tighten it a little bit more to get to more stuff, if that makes sense, or and for that, what is it? Smoke, something about smoke too much. Yeah, so I was saying it like I really like that. Because that's the feel I was getting, that I was like, oh, we're getting high with you. This is the high conversations. And I love that you, when you described your friend, you never described him physically, which I actually really like. You let us sort of picture who you're talking about. Like, we understand the guy, like, you don't care about his feelings, just kind of get high. You don't want to be alone. You just don't want to be alone, so you hang out with him.
Oh,
And like, has aggression. I like the same thing. Tom and I both heard the same things I think resonated with us, where he's the kind who gets out his aggression with violence. like oh yeah, that guy. So, but I love that you didn't physically describe him for us, and I thought that was cool. Segues aren't any. I think that's a way you just acknowledge it. You're like, I'm changing the subject. Don't know how. I appreciate that if you just acknowledge it. Um, and then the whole thing with the Carvana, like I like how your word choices. So swarm got me, but I do think there is a opportunity to condense that, and that whole like pinball, like you're getting your stuff from a machine, like you literally like you put a quarter in and out comes your car. Like it's very bizarre, and is they're essentially trying to decimate a whole livelihood and then mock them as they do it. Like, look, we can put a penny in a machine and it will do this job better than you.
I like
I don't
that
know.
phrase, decimate a whole livelihood.
Yeah.
I feel that from you.
So that's what they're trying to do essentially, and mock them. Like they're all like, look at how stupid everyone else is. I get that. Yeah, like from those commercials, they have gotten a bit more vicious. I do think if you do take more time to explain the joke or like get to that, I like that you said, don't worry, this isn't my TED talk. Like I think that it's another point of acknowledging that, yes, I have a point. Don't worry, I'm getting there. Like, because we're just sort of along with this conversation with you. So I enjoyed that. I look forward to seeing like that more further thoughts on that, and maybe the comparison of like machine versus man selling you a car. So having some fun with that. But I think that, so thank you. I enjoy the, because I love that everyone has had such a, what I love about all of the funny feedback is everyone has such distinct, we say point of POV, but like I really get a lot of point of views. I'm going to say it's just what I'm going to do.
I just like everybody at home take a shot.
Yeah. My point of view, my POV was, but thank you.
Thank you. Lots of great notes. I appreciate that.
Woo, woo, woo. Well, keep it going for Rich. And we're going to move on now to our last comic of the evening, who's been waiting patiently.
Yes.
Give it up for regular, you know him, you love him, John O'Keefe. Woo, 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 woo.
Hello, everybody. How's it going?
Hi.
Good. My name's John, as you know. It's good to see everyone. Tom, Liza, Desiree, Rich. Your names actually spell out too long, didn't read. I thought I'd mention that for no real reason. I used to live alone, And every now and again, I would feed stray cats that came to my window. Now, if there's a test for male loneliness, that's it for sure. You know what I mean? Like, John, do you feed stray cats in your tidy whities? You do. You get an F for freak. That's pathetic. But I'm being kind of a freak. But listen, I don't live in that house anymore because I had an outdoor toilet. That's the truth. Outdoor toilet. I mean, I've heard of squatters' rights. Like, what about shitters' needs? So I moved out. I'm kidding. I was actually evicted. That's the worst part. I had to get evicted to fucking move out. But now I live with my girlfriend. It's all worked out. Or maybe not, because I think it's more fair to say I live with an investigator. We used to get on like old friends. Now she wants me to pay half the rent. And then I have to, what did I say? Oh yeah, I fucked that up, lads. Never mind. So I think, now, yeah, that's it. I always wanted a partner, but now lads, I totally lost my fucking train of thought here. Moving on quickly. Jesus Christ, John, this is not good. The point is, I think we're never happy unless we're disappointing ourselves. If you're with someone, you feel smothered. If you're alone, you feel pathetic. I think that's why it makes sense to have sex in a library, because you can have sex and then sit in peace. And if they start asking you questions like your name or why a library, you could just be like, shh, and you're being conscientious. You are upstanding after being hunched over. I'm still growing the relationship, I think, and that's great. It really is. But the worst thing about growing in a relationship is that people have new expectations, and all your old growth is irrelevant. The new you is now the lowest you that's acceptable. So what, you're telling me to grow and develop and change, and then I do all that shit, and then I have to do it all over again. What kind of a fucking Ponzi scheme are you running, lady? I'm not made of potential. I have a limit. I have a small pool of... I'm a cactus. I assume they don't grow. If they do, I'm something else that doesn't... I'm the opposite of our expectations. You can't expect me to grow and grow again. You've seen my... I'm going to own a car. That's crazy. That's money I could spend on walking shoes. My girlfriend, she's a big part of my life. She told me her friend got pregnant and had a baby from a one-night stand. And the guy's not going to help her. This is true. And I was like, that's awful. He only lives like 5 miles away. Like, what a prick. And she went, yeah, but in fairness, he did pay for the stroller. And I was like, well... Why didn't you mention he was a hero? Clearly, he's gone above and beyond already. I hope he can claim that back in his taxes. She is lucky a guy like that knocked her up. Wow. Could you imagine him and her negotiating for the parental role? He's like, so what do you want from me? And she's like, well, maybe you could be there and help me raise the kid. And he's like, tell you what, I can give you half a stroller, 2 of the wheels. And she's like, ooh. Could you go for a full stroller? And he's like, Jesus, you drive a hard bargain, lady, but anything for my baby. No, that does cover me till it dies, right? Listen, you pick out any pram you want, even a new one. You get the fucking Rolls Royce of single mother prams. Just keep it under 300 quid. I'm saving up for a PS5. You know, don't thank me. It's the least I can do. Do you want to hear the crazy thing? This is all true. My girlfriend later told me that he actually only did chip in for the stroller. Too bad he didn't chip in for a fucking condom. So lockdown's been hard. I recently got an email from Google Timeline. It was for January. This is all truth. My life's a mess. It said cities visited 1, places visited 2, highlight Aldi. And I was like, I hadn't seen human misery in such a neat graphic since I did my family tree as a child. And I was like, how creepy is that? You know, Google are tracking me with my consent. Every day Google are like, can we track me? Can we track this? And we go, yes, 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 come on already. And then we get angry about it afterwards. Like, fuck you, Google. You know you should mention this to me in the terms and conditions I've never read. I don't know if I have time for that. I think I will. So speaking of big tech, my girlfriend works for Twitter. You know Twitter, big blue bird, angry customers, former propaganda machine. And every few weeks, she gets this incredible swag package. Ribbons, bows, it's immaculate. It's boutique pens, cups, squeezy balls. Twitter's a better boyfriend than me. They have infinite resources and a tiny blue bird that makes everything better. Every time I go into shops, I bring back notebooks and pens, and she's like, Twitter puts birds and everything. They make an effort. And I'm like, I'm not a corporation. I'm just a man. And she's like, although I think Twitter has dropped the ball. She's gone off Twitter. Their latest swag package, very disappointing. She was almost in tears because they gave her this thing. Do you remember this guy? This is all true. She was almost in tears. I was like, what's wrong? It's the thought that counts. She was like, fuck that. I wanted Converse. And I was like, okay, well, that's all I have to say about that, guys. Thanks for listening to me. My name's John.
Woo, 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 woo! Give it up for John, everybody. Oh my God. Oh, so many things to say about that. So for reference, for people watching at home and people here for the first time, yeah, I also didn't notice the timer until now. Good observation, Rich. But yeah, just like for everybody, John's been on the show a couple of times, and I told him last time to kind of do what Desiree does sometimes and like work the same material again to see how the notes affect it. And um, I mean, I liked the material to begin with. I think that what happened towards the top of the set is just like something that is like going to happen sometimes, where you kind of lose your train of thought and what you've prepared, and you handled it exactly the way that you're supposed to, which is you just gotta kind of acknowledge it and try and work yourself back to where you want to be in the set. So I thought that that was uh, fine. But as far as the material, like, I just think that it's so strong. Like, watching it this time, um, it's like it's hard to critique because I like the writing as far as like the material so much. There's a couple areas where I have some ideas on where to expound, maybe like some other things you can dig into. But what you have already is really strong, and there was some new stuff in there that I thought were like nice tags to the like original set. I think that um, like going back and editing it and like having your strongest stuff in there is good, and then we just now have to keep in mind, um, especially when you kind of get thrown for a loop with losing your train of thought, um, if there's a way to kind of like have jokes marked in your set mentally that if needed you can cut, because it wasn't that you went over time, it went into you have so many good jokes, and now it's just that we're going through them so fast that I can't, like, you gotta give the audience a second to laugh at them, I think, if it's going to be like a, getting mileage out of them. But
For sure.
overall, though, I mean, obviously, I said enough that I think it's funny. I think that the notes that you took, like with the shushing at the library, I think that worked. And then you even had the upstanding after being hunched over. I think that was a new tag, and I appreciated that if it was.
Yeah,
And if not, I'm sorry, I didn't listen.
no, no, it was, yeah. It
Okay,
was.
good. Oh god. Let's see. Oh, so talking about the ways, there might be more jokes in there somewhere. There might be a joke in like the potential, like a physics joke somewhere about like potential energy. That might be a little bit of a stretch though. I think that there's room in the relationship bit at the end with like Twitter's a corporation. Maybe there's like an analogy there
Yeah.
about like in a relationship you're a corporation and you're single it's a sole proprietorship or something. I don't know.
Yeah, even when I was doing the set that time, that bit felt noticeably kind of more threadbare, or I didn't have as much faith in it as I was delivering it.
I mean, I liked what you had. What you had was good. I'm just trying to see if like there's more tags or like ways we can expand
For
on
sure.
it. But
For sure.
loved the segue of like I think you finished up with like the negotiating with the whole stroller thing, and then just well, lockdown's been hard. Ah, that got me. And
Yeah.
then
Do you
go.
guys know what a pram is, incidentally?
See,
Because
I do, but that's because I lived
okay,
in England for a year, so it
yeah,
took me a second. Yeah, I saw that you were about to say pramulator, pram,
yeah.
like no, and so I do
Because
think
I just think that's a funny word, you know.
it
Because
is.
my girlfriend said she bought her a pram, and it was just such a harsh kind of quick, and I was like, and then I think it still works, but I mean maybe I could change it to.
I
I think I'll keep it for stroller maybe.
I think stroller does work here, but I think you can take a moment to be like,
Mm,
you Americans, stroller, pram is stroller, and then
okay,
stay with stroller. Like
cool, yeah,
that's
Mhm.
you can educate us. No,
okay,
but I think that there's a way
yeah,
to say both if you want a pram for America, or you just pick one and
sure.
go with it.
Yeah.
I think
I'll try pram next time and see how it goes.
Yeah.
but I think with American audiences, they're probably not going to know in general what a pram is.
Mm.
Do you know, Desiree? Did you know the term pram?
Yeah,
How
yeah.
about you, Rich?
Canada might know.
Yeah. They know
Um,
more than us. No, Rich, did you know what a pram was? Would you know? You did? So yeah, so it
Oh,
looks
okay.
like for people know, like it's
Yeah,
because we
but
watch all the Crown. No, I don't know.
But
Like
yeah,
we watch, but so it's more universal than it was. Like, and
yeah.
it took me a
cool.
second in the '90s to learn it.
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah. Oh, cool. Okay.
But I stroller's still a strong word. I
yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna say that was my. I know you were doing a lot of the set that things that we already
Yeah.
done before, which I enjoyed. I know that you got thrown off track, and then
Mm,
Tom is right, like about having. I think it's like having a hook for yourself if you come off track to have to get
yeah.
you back into it. Also, if you get off track, be like, all right,
Yeah.
I can always pick up here. If I lose my train of thought, I can always have this segue to go to right away. And I
Yeah.
like
That's a
for a
good
hot
idea.
second, I was worried you were gonna like not cut back on track. When sometimes it's like when you
Mm,
see a gymnast falter and then they're just or like an ice skater that like then they suck the right
yeah.
like not that
It's
you did
amazing
at
how
all,
quickly your confidence goes when you get flustered.
but you got back on. That's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
thing. It's like you didn't. I was like, no, 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 you get it back. Like you did. You're just like, oh, and I like that you acknowledged it and you got right back on. It's that there's lots more funny jokes. Your material, like Tom says, is really, really strong. I think you have so much that don't, and I think this is part of the pace. Like I think you wanted to get to all the stuff and your new stuff. I I say if it's not going to fit into the time, don't try and make it all fit. Does that make sense? Like I know you were trying to get
Absolutely.
to the Twitter bit and all that stuff that we
Yeah.
heard because that's something we said. Why
I'm
don't you try
I'm
doing
I'm
that?
I timekeeping is like a real pride thing of mine. So I'm always trying to make sure I don't run over. But then sometimes I end up rushing through stuff to make sure I don't go over time.
Right. So I would say then, and this is something I think that Tom hit on is like knowing what segments that you're always because the way I see it, and it's when I look at like if I'm doing any sort of lesson plan or any sort of jokes or things like that, stuff that you could always take out or you
Mm,
can insert in like like okay like if I when I was doing an audition like there's a serious time constraint and you had to stay in it, then I knew like if I miss this one beat I can put this something else in or I can take this away and it will still be cohesive. So maybe
yeah.
that's just looking at that like how you look at it as building blocks of like this is the part of the set I really 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 need to like these are the three things I really need to get in, and if this isn't working or taking longer I can take this other thing out. Like if you have six, I always like things say over, you can always over plan and take things out
Yeah.
versus searching for material to vamp. Does that make
Absolutely.
sense?
Yeah. Yeah, of
Like
course.
but I know what you were doing here, you're trying to get all the other stuff in
Mm,
though. And I love all that stuff though. That stroller stuff, and maybe it's because I'm a mom,
But
that killed me, and that like this covers me till it dies, right?
I know it's a bit harsh, but it's like that's kind of the attitude, right? That's like that's the thing. Like I'll give you this, and then that's it. Like
It was one, and I loved, and this is go back to because like I love that you were like talking, like that worked. The way that you
mm,
did the angling and talking and back and forth, like the conversation was happening. I
yeah,
loved that. I think that you have a strong way with the mic in your hand. Like I said, that everyone has really found a way to just use their environment and use or props or virtual backgrounds, whatever, to really assist them in their comedy, which I think is awesome. Um,
Lisa, if I can just jump on the stroller thing since you mentioned it, I did have one thought for a possible tag for that. Just
oh cool,
maybe like some comparison of like that covers it till it dies, right? And then maybe like when you're young, it's a stroller, and then as they get older, like you have to like get their walker when they're older. I don't know. Just like some equivalents for like the stages of life.
okay,
Um,
yeah, I see
yeah.
what you mean.
but yeah,
But
that was it. Sorry, Lisa.
no, no, I was just saying, like, I love all of the building. Like, I think the cat telling yourself about establishing who you are, then, you got off pace, but you got right back on. Took a second. Then the Ponzi scheme, I think, always really works about expectations in a relationship. And then going into the stroller. And then I did like that transition. So lockdown's been hard. That got me. So after that whole thing, um, but with the Twitter thing, I do enjoy that thing. I just felt that
Mm,
it was probably more rushed because you're trying to get it in for the time. So I
yeah, yeah,
say take your time, like Tom said, like we're gonna
mm,
laugh, like there's a lot of good material. I say think it's more about an organizational thing now that you've
mm,
worked this material really well, you know the beats, you know the stuff, you have a great delivery with it. Just figure out how to organize it in a way that no matter what it's gonna, it's like a math equation, not that I'm into
sure,
math, but you know what I mean. Like
yeah,
I can
yeah,
this bit and this bit and this bit, what works between, and I can pull or put things in.
yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
And it's always changing and always growing like a cactus. All right. that being said, give it up one more time for John O'Keefe, everybody. Woo!
Thank you.
Awesome. And that's our last comic for the evening. So I'm going to go ahead and spotlight myself and take us out of here. Big thank you to my co-host Lisa, as always, to all the comedians for being so open to feedback, and of course to our awesome audience. Again, if you want to support the stream, you can do so at district-comedy.live or hit that share, like, or subscribe button. And if you want to be on the show, you can sign up using the link in the episode description. See you next week. Have a good night. Bye. Woo.